السلام عليكم وصباح الخير للجميع. أولاً كل عام وأنتم بخير ومبارك عليكم الشهر الفضيل. أحييكم جميعاً وأرحب بكم في منصة بنك عمان العربي للتعلم الرقمي. معكم أيمن الشحي رئيس قسم التعلم والتطوير بإدارة الموارد البشرية. اليوم نباشر أولى الورش التفاعلية بقيادة الفاضل إيدي عبود مدير عام لشركة الخليج للحاسبات الآلية GBM. ونبدأ عرضنا اليوم لدور الابتكار بين القطاعات واللي يتخلله بعض البرامج اللي هي مهمة لكل القطاعات. لمزيد من المعلومات عن الورش القادمة يرجى منكم زيارة صفحاتنا على موقع التواصل الاجتماعي والتسجيل من خلال الرابط الموجود عند كل ورشة عمل. أكرر ترحيبي للجميع وأتمنى لكم أوقات ممتعة.
السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. كل عام وانتم بخير مبارك عليكم الشهر. Good morning everyone and thank you for joining us this morning for the first session of OEB's Online Learning Hub. My name is Lina Al-Atasi. I'm the Head of Innovation at Oman Arab Bank. Over the next month or so, we're going to be launching a number of workshops online that are focused on innovation, personal development and career success. For more information about these workshops and to find out how you can register, please follow us on our social media channels via Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn. I would like to start by thanking our partners for their support to this platform, namely GBM, MasterCard, Visa, PhaseRow, IDO, Penta Pyramid, Performance World, and Shane Phillips. Today, we're delighted to be joined by Mr. Eddy Abboud, General Manager at GBM Oman, who will talk to us about innovation across ecosystems. Eddy's career is a unique blend of various capacities across organizations in Europe, Middle East, and Africa. With a degree in leadership from Harvard Business School and an MBA in Business Administration, he has been a driving force at GBM for the last 12 years. This is an interactive session. Therefore, if you have any questions during the presentation, please raise your questions in the chat window and they'll be read out loud and addressed by our speaker. If you'd like to join the discussion at the end of the presentation, please raise your virtual hand and we'll call on you. Or you can send a chat message to the group, everyone, and the moderator will read the messages or the questions out loud. Eddy, over to you.
Thank you, Liam. Thank you, Ayman. Good day, everyone, and welcome to Oman Arab Bank Learning Hub. I want to seize the opportunity to thank you all and wish you a blessed month. Special thanks to OAB stakeholders of this initiative, and a super special thanks to Lina and Ayman for the hosting. This session is about innovation across ecosystems in today's economy. My name is Eddy Abboud, and I'm very grateful for the opportunity and to be here with you all today. We will spend the next hour exploring my new reference architecture that describes the various types and categories of innovation. We'll move next to the role of technology in the space and introduction to API. We'll go through examples of how both fintech and banking can cooperate for a better tailored experience. We'll then discuss the importance of innovation in the banking industry and in relation to different sectors. Then we'll finish with a closing note and a Q&A session for about 20 minutes. Locked down or locked alone here in a room is not how I've imagined to be talking to you today about innovation. But needless to say that these are unprecedented moments in our history. And I'm sure this is not how you've imagined to be spending and attending this session too. This pandemic has taken away many valuable working hours from an economy that needed every second and every effort from us to thrive and grow. This pandemic has changed the way we perform our jobs, our education, our shopping, our daily activities. It has also taught us a big lesson. In a world that is moving very fast, to slow down, to live smarter, to appreciate the little things we have, to look at the same scene and see different details, to breathe. This pandemic also introduced us to a greater extent to our family members, the ones we somehow forgotten about during those busy days, made us connect with one another. I never thought in my life that keeping away from our neighbors and friends and colleagues and maybe even our loved ones, at least for a while, is the way to staying healthy and safe. But all this would not have been possible without a connected world. Imagine you cannot pay your utility bills online, or re-register your car and pay for your insurance, or maybe do your groceries online and even perform distant learning from home, having video calls and virtual meetings like this one. Imagine you do not have online banking services. How hard then would it be to implement such a lockdown? This pandemic, if you think about it, is really an awakening to all of us, both individuals and corporates, to start investing more to make sure all these services and more advanced ones are available for us. We must invent the new future for ourselves. The last 2 decades have witnessed the creation of many new industries and markets, like biotechnology, like renewable energies, plant-based meat substitutes, and technologies like cloud services and robotics, an effective way to implement artificial intelligence, social media platforms and connected transportation, smartphones, which keep on introducing unlimited opportunities and disrupting the conventional ways of doing business. And let's not forget the recent exponential utilization of internet-connected devices and wearables. Although these became basic elements in our lives nowadays, however, they create endless opportunities for all of us to stay connected and progress. Today, we find so much knowledge sitting in our hands. And it's up to us how to effectively consume this data and commit to a positive change in this world. This can lead us to come up with new ideas and how to address challenges we are facing every day in our lives, and surely find various ways to execute them. This is the core of innovation. So what is really innovation? Although we frequently talk about innovation, in fact, I found it's one of the toughest exercises to limit this word in the boundaries of a definition. So I decided to innovate and come up with my very own definition. So I started looking online for definitions made by leaders around the world. Obviously, you'll do like me, you'll find countless quotes and ways to describe innovation. So I took what I found the best 20 definitions and went and used word cloud to know which words were repeated the most. I committed not to cheat and develop a definition using the top 10 words most used or most repeated. So I found that top 10 words obviously involved new customer, idea, value, creation, or creative, business, but never occurred to me to encounter the word surprising and thinking. But since a commitment is a commitment, I had to develop this definition using those 10 words. So here it goes. Innovation is the delivery of a new creative idea that people see surprising and think to bring business value to customers. At first, the definition, when I looked at it, I immediately judged it. I didn't like it at first. I found something not right. Then I really started appreciating it because it's true. And currently, to be honest with you, I love it. And I want to use it more often. So in short, innovation is coming up with a creative idea that people are surprised by and that we believe it truly brings value to customers. And it's not called innovation until it's delivered. Since now I gave the definition, my own definition of innovation, it is then worth mentioning what I strongly believe innovation is not. So there are many misconceptions about innovation. Innovation does not have to be an idea that nobody has had before. And of course, innovation does not have to require so much money and resources. And finally, innovation does not have to be based on technology. Although these three criteria could potentially be true in many cases, however, countless of innovations are not. So I urge you, when you want to innovate, do not limit your creativity and innovation by thinking that these three criteria are essential. So let's remind ourselves again of the definition. Innovation is the delivery of a new creative idea that people see surprising and think to bring business value to customers. Practically, to start addressing the definition, we should address the innovation in a structured way and understand its nature. So I have recently developed a reference architecture for innovation, which highlights the types and the categories of innovation and what to really pay attention to. So this is self-explanatory, and please feel free to take a screenshot or a photo of this reference. It's surely useful when you require to define your innovative ideas and solutions. And it highlights the talking points in your discussion, in your presentation, for example. It is worth mentioning that some of us would come up with more types of innovation. But these are the most 4 used innovations available today: technology, process, and by process we mean also could be the product, business model, which is very interesting, and positioning innovation. And we have 3 different categories: disruptive, incremental, and general. And general is referred to here as lateral. When talking about technological innovation, we refer to one or many of these 3 elements: problem solving, increase in knowledge, and patents and stuff, and also improvement. When we refer to process innovation, or including the products, we're talking about rethinking how work gets done, sharing resources, greater efficiency, maybe automation, quality results. One of the most important innovative types is business model. For a business model to be innovative, minimum 2 of these 4 elements must be tackled. I'm not sure if you can see the 4th. I'll read it out to you. Identification of targeted customer, offering to the customer, which is the product or the service that you want to develop, creation of value proposition, and surely, and very importantly, generation of revenue and mainly profit. And the last one is positioning innovation. And we're talking here about customer needs, price and benefit metrics, more for more, less for less. We're talking here, for example, more capabilities for more the price. Like, for example, Apple laptop, they promise more capabilities with more price, less for less capabilities for less price. And in some cases, you might find more capabilities for less price. And this is, for example, one of the positioning of the HP laptops. Recently, they wanted to address the market of Apple, and they wanted to introduce the same capabilities for less price. So depending on how you address the price and benefit metrics. And of course, the last one is promise delivery and expectation management. So whichever the type of innovation you choose, it can either be classified as disruptive or incremental or general. When we talk about incremental, this could be also used in large firms and subsidiaries and maybe connected entities that complement what they do. Let me give you an example here about these categories. When we talk about incremental innovation, for example, it's adopting best practices to enhance product or service that was already developed. This is great for continued involvement and evolvement of existing portfolio. When we talk about disruptive innovation, it is no longer the same product or service. Mainly, for example, it could be major improvements for the existing product that is no longer recognized as the earlier product, or a completely development of a new product or service that will disrupt the existing portfolio. Give you many examples. I'll give you an example like IBM, they did not invent the personal computer. And Apple, for instance, with the introduction of iPod and iPhone, but Apple in reality did not invent the MP3 industry or the technology, nor the phone. And Amazon did not invent even the online bookstore. So successful innovators in this space learn and recombine. So big organizations now started to focusing on the business model, not just the technology. I give you another example. For example, Google and Amazon and maybe eBay. In reality, their success is in the business model and the algorithm more than the technology itself. So should a company using an incremental innovation for a product, let's say, and the company can no longer capture more value out of this product, a disruption most likely is a must in order to capture even more value. I can quote here two people that I think they were hinting very much about disruptive innovation in the earlier days. We're talking about Einstein. Needless to introduce him, when he said, we can't solve today's problems by using the same thinking we used to create them. And in reality, he's thinking of a new design thinking model, first principle design thinking, which is the disruptive innovation. Similarly, Henry Ford, when they used to breed horses and this economy flourished so much, but people wanted asking Henry Ford to deliver faster horses. So he came up with a machine, which today we call a car. This is also disruptive innovation. So what are the challenges and how will we or you stand out? In this digital age of technological explosions in every field, all types of organizations must continually innovate to improve and change both their product and services and the way they perform the business. And we're talking here about the business process, and we're talking also about the business model itself. So innovation is vital for all organizations. But also innovation depends on many creative ideas. And one of the major challenges, the first challenge that I can highlight is there are too many ideas. So the majority, although they have great potential, are lost in the pile of innovative ideas and the expert opinions and statistics that maybe contradicts, and statistics in every aspect of every issue. And the second challenge is also major here in Oman, is the indecisions or not taking immediate decisions and the pressure due to the limited time. And here we kick in the sense of urgency as a key element here. And the third that I'm gonna highlight, which is the suspicion that others will find that this product or service is not efficient or the results could be poor. So all what I have described are considered initial steps of this journey, at the start of this journey. But most failures do not occur at the beginning, but between the middle and the end. And along the way, we are lost in why we're not able to pull this through. So, well, luckily, during my studies at Harvard, I was enabled to understand the elements of successful implementation of similar journeys. It is a complete model that I'm going to show right now that can also be applied to any corporate transformation project or digital transformation or many other transformations within your organization. First, you need to memorize every element here, or maybe obviously you take a screenshot of that, but also you need to memorize that every element is very important. You need to get also familiar, that is not highlighted here, with the project management, which will enable you to well manage the transition from an idea to delivery. Remember, you do not to do it on your own. You don't have to do it on your own. Dependency on your team and colleagues could be a major factor in making this innovation see light. So this model, I'm going to show you 4 elements that make sure this is addressed well. We're talking about critical tasks and formal organizations are the first 2 elements. Formal organizations, I'll talk about first a critical task. We're talking about the process of innovating, or the process, existing process to come up with the new innovative ideas, could be incremental, could be anything, and the workflows. Formal organization is very important, and technology is at its core. but it's not limited to technology. So let's not underestimate each and every element here. I'll give you an example. Strategic grouping is very important. Reward system, hierarchy, and many others. And what we usually tend to focus on are these two areas, the critical tasks and the formal organizations. We never forget much, but we never pay attention too much in details to the other two elements, which are a major factor in the success or failure of any project. We're talking about the culture. And culture is one of the very strongest elements in Oman. And this can be a very good strength or a great weakness, depending on how we manage it. And we're talking here about the informal power, the norms and the values, the communication network, and surely the informal roles and the leadership within the organizations and the influence that we can have on a project or on a team. And the last one, we're talking about the people and the biases and the motivations, the skills, and surely the ability. What I want to highlight here is also that any disconnect of these four components may trigger a failure in your project and make an innovation idea hard to implement. I hope you found this introduction helpful and innovative. So let's now go through the role of technology in innovation. Technology is, to be honest, nothing but a tool that put innovation on steroid, exposes the potential of available data, and put capabilities at scale by leveraging integration between various systems and available sets of data. And the data could be either stored, collected and stored, or could be also real-time. Let me give you examples of the utilization and the use of technologies, data, and integration at scale. You might be familiar with many, or maybe all of them, but it's worth mentioning them. Detection and management of fraud patterns in a bank using artificial intelligence, or maybe connected banks. Command and control center and management of crisis at, for example, at an airport or police, and maybe the deployment of fire trucks and ambulatory services. Healthcare and the early detection of cancer cells in our bodies. Simulation of vaccinations using AI and fast track the innovation in this matter, like what's happening right now with the COVID-19 virus around the world. And many organizations are using these kind of simulations. Wearables to detect abnormalities in heartbeats and automated calling service for emergencies and maybe medical assistance. Automation and automatic detection of someone's voice for person identification and fraud detection. And cybersecurity, for example, instance, is an activity that is detected, and possibly utilization of artificial intelligence to automate the reaction, reconfigure, and auto-configure rules to prevent these from happening again. So technologies, or the technology is there to assist us reach to the next level. An application performing or application programming interface, or API, is the engine or the tool that is used to connect two or more systems together and collaborate. Each time you use an application, you're most likely using an API. So API, application programming interface, most likely you're using it every time you're using a mobile application. Many examples in daily lives, like for example, ordering food through talabat.com, or maybe paying your utility bill via the OAB internet banking platform, or even the mobile banking platform. Checking my Omantel bill and the balance, or maybe going to ROP to perform some e-services online. Booking.com reservations and Expedia to, for example, to book a flight of Oman Air, scheduling a ride with Uber and Otaxi. So today, most likely API is used in every application. And you can imagine it as the hub that connects all systems together, internal and external. And therefore, you hear sometimes the term API economy. So API can be used in all sectors, not just banking, for pretty much connecting different devices. Many innovators started leveraging the API economy to come up with unique services that are quick, high value, and potentially cheap, or surely cheap, to customers, consumers. So some entered the financial services sector and made use or the usage of the analytics to generate competitive business propositions in terms of marketing, positioning, social media, and handling of big data for sure. The goal is to come up with services to consumers. These organizations are called fintechs. So fintechs, or financial technology organizations, are simply nothing but a startup company born at the intersection between the financial institutions and the technology providers. They leverage technology, the API economy, and advanced analytics for financial gain and business around financial sectors and services, like, for example, peer-to-peer lending, digital payments, and digital gateways and payment gateways. Mainly, they were addressing the business to consumer, the B2C. And banks found pretty much in 2008, when they started after the financial crisis, and they boomed between 2008 and 2010-11, the banks found difficulties in really to control them, as they are addressing consumers directly and in a very effective way, because they have all the data they need about a particular consumer to succeed. Typical examples are payment through phone applications and wearables using e-currency like cryptocurrency or Bitcoin, Omantel's eFlus, for example, Apple Pay, and because of the wide acceptance of social media, we see Facebook is embarking on this service too. So, but fintech could not enter the enterprise space at this time, or what we call the business to business, or even business to consumer, B2B2C. And they realized the need of financial institutions and banks. However, because of the big data and the API economy, they are able to identify, analyze, and target people's interests, like investors, for instance. They can track their digital interaction and personal relationships and behaviors online, and more, many more attributes and variables. So therefore, one of these understanding about their targeted customers is there, and they innovate and come up with a new business model. And this is the true value of fintechs. Somehow they can become unstoppable if they have all the data about you. For instance, if they want to provide financial advisory services for someone whom they collected and understood their behavior through API and the big data. Can you imagine they know about the person more than this person knows about himself? How strong they can be. So organizations, how can they, and institutions like bank, stay in the game? Well, I believe they've done well, and they joined forces. Let me give you an example. A bank has all the financial transaction details performed by one person at a particular bank. They understand his spending behavior from only a purely financial standpoint. A fintech, on the other side, has developed, I'll give you an example, a robo-advisor, which is built on big data. And they have the data of a particular customer from online behavior and many others that we listed before. But surely, they do not have the financial transaction details of this person at the particular bank, because this data belongs to the bank only, and it's not exposed anywhere. Could you imagine the service to be given to this customer if they join forces? Using API, they both can accelerate innovation and collaboration, leading to expanded banking ecosystems that could include much more than just financial services to make someone's life or the customer's life or lifestyle much better. I'll give you an example or two examples. I'll start with one that is realistically easy to implement. Imagine you post on social media platform that you're looking to buy a pre-owned car or maybe an apartment. And the next day, the bank comes forward with an unbeatable offer to you, versus you need to call the bank and inquire for these kind of services. Imagine, give you another example here of the same category. Imagine, for example, you change your, could be funny, but imagine you change your relationship status on Facebook to engaged and planning, for example, to get married. And your banker gives you a call and says, congratulations, we're really happy that you're engaged. Or even without mentioning these, if this is too much personalized, they can come with transparency and with an offer for maybe funding and financial services around a wedding package or maybe a honeymoon that potentially you posted, for example, a dream destination somewhere on Instagram or Pinterest. So you can imagine the personalization. At the end, it's a service. You might maybe opt out of it or maybe opt in, and you might feel it's really relevant to me, because if I want to do all the service by myself, it could be really heavy. And it's up to you. So the gamification, for example, this is another point where banks can innovate a little bit here, for example, related to a credit card statement. You can imagine how boring it is to go and read those lines that you really can't understand much. Where was this payment made and who made it and stuff. And in this area, for example, Apple last year, they introduced the Apple Pay. I don't know if it's last year or this year. Last year, yes. They introduced the Apple Pay. And in this Apple Pay, they can show you the statement of how where did you pay and who paid and what time, and maybe a picture and the location of that particular space. So gamification here could be name of the game as well. Another example that could be a little bit more complex to implement, but we should get there. I'll give you an example of immersive technologies in banking leading to a superior customer experience. Give you an example, for example, about a major, let's start with the majority of the major banks. They're witnessing more than 90% of their interactions, of customers' interactions digitally. And customers no longer want to visit a bank. I'll give you, I'm one of them. I really feel visiting a bank is a torture. It's a penalty. So I prefer to do all my transactions online, from home, and maybe preferably with my mobile. Why not having, like this one, virtual meeting? Or let me go further and say augmented reality with my banker. Especially in cases like now, for example, in a pandemic, which we are not allowed to leave our homes. Imagine the services available, how quick and efficient and reliable it will be to perform banking transactions. How, for example, it could be beneficial to identify the person instead of asking those silly 3-4 questions, security questions that we tend to forget every time they answer. Could you imagine someone working in one of those PDO's remote sites that he needs a banking service? How can he bank and maybe immersive technologies and AR or augmented reality with my banker could be a solution for that. I'm listing here in front of you personalization, 24/7 banking availability, gamification, automation, robots, and monetization. These could be hot topics in banking sector nowadays that also can complement other sectors as well, not just the consumer and the personal customer. That's not just the B2C, it's also the B2B. So these are hot topics which are taking the hype nowadays. And institutions like banks, they need to get there. We discussed a lot about fintechs and banks joining forces together and mentioned countless of innovation examples. Let's not forget that these also can serve the various industries. And we're talking about healthcare, we're talking about real estate, we talk about transportation and hospitality and IT and many others. So, and this can only be leveraged by taking advantage of technology and API economy. For example, I'll give you this last example. If I'm an owner of a retail shop, I want my customer to have the possibility to pay with any IoT device and a wearable device that they bring. And also pay could be through a point of sale and maybe mobile wallet anywhere in the world. Is it possible? No, of course it's possible, leveraging API and the ecosystem. So why these services are not available today in our banks? Is it really the lack of capabilities from their side? Their core business is financial services. And that is where they really excel. And really they can innovate a lot, and we see lots of innovation in this space. But maybe they are also dependent on many of us to join forces together with them for a superior customer experience. I salute Oman Arab Bank management for believing in hackathon and bringing those ideas forward and committing to exploring better services for their customers. And for you, opportunities are endless. And it's up to you how you move on from here. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Eddy, for that very insightful presentation. We'd like to open up the platform now for questions. If you'd like to raise your hand to have a conversation with Eddy or to ask us any questions via the group chat, please feel free to do so now.
It's really beautiful to highlight here the efforts of Oman Arab Bank when it comes to the hackathon that was performed, I think, twice last year in collaboration with GBM and many other supporters and sponsors from a technology and many others. But really, it takes a lot from an organization to commit to this kind of excellence, and OAB management is really to be saluted here. So very well done to all of you guys, and congratulations.
Thank you, Eddy. We were hoping to hold our second edition earlier this year. Due to circumstances, obviously, we had to postpone it. But we're looking forward to hosting the second edition of our Innovation Hub as soon as circumstances improve, inshallah.
And we look forward, to be honest with you, Lean, to be always hand in hand together, walking this journey of innovation and transformation, not just in the banking sector, but also how can we really expose it to all sectors together. And maybe also how we can really innovate through SMEs. And Absolutely. This is what was very unique about your hackathon. And to be honest with you, GBM, we sponsor sometimes, and we attend, and we contribute lots of hackathons. But what you've done last year was really phenomenal. When you introduced a new element, which is first and it's something, I don't know if I'm allowed to expose it here, but it was really very insightful even for me. When you started looking for potential leaders within the hackathon who's really excelling in ideas and the management of it with his colleagues, and maybe also hire them to perform those kind of ideas. It was really amazing, and I really salute you. So it's not about just the idea, it's also about the people.
It's about the people.
Also how you're contributing to Oman's economy. This is amazing.
Absolutely, and we're delighted to be joined today by many of our Innovation Hub participants, past and current. We have a question from Al-Muthanna Mohammed. Muthanna, I'm just unmuting your mic. Please go ahead, Al-Muthanna.
Hi, Muthanna.
Al-Muthanna, can you hear us?
Hello.
Yes, hi, how are you?
Hi, Mr. Eddy. Thank you for this nice presentation. And thank you in Oman Arab Bank for giving this opportunity. And really, Oman market, this is very promising for the innovation. And really, you know, the banking sector and also the is a good opportunity to make new technology on it to help the customer to make good services. And really, I need to take this chance to thank GBM for also congratulations for the 30 years in the market here in Oman. And really, they give good services for the market here in many sectors, in governmental sectors and banking sectors. And I have question just about the pandemic situation. What's the thinking for the future for here in the country to be like more ideas to innovate through make many services to be online and these things? How's it to help the SMEs to create and support them on their ideas? This is my question.
Thank you, Muthanna.
Thank you, Muthanna. First of all, I want to thank you for the recognition of GBM services in this market. And GBM Oman is a 100% Omani company. And currently we cross 40% of it in level of the Omanization, which is really contributing to both. And thank you for the recognition. And 30 years in this market is not easy to remain at the top, and we really appreciate your appreciation. Regarding the banking sector and the economy in general in Oman, we see a major challenge when it comes to the diversification and the magnitude of diversification that is really required in this economy. And the dependency on oil, although still very high, but we see officials heading towards diversification, and they totally understand it, and I think they appreciate it. What I really found very interesting about Oman in specific is the strong regulation. And this is not something bad or something extremely good, but it depends on how we leverage it. Oman, when we're talking about its economy, and close to, I think, 68 to 70% of the GDP is contributed through oil, remaining the first three that I come up with through the 10th program was exposed. First one is the oil from a GDP, but not from just the importance, also the GDP. Also very important is the fisheries, and the third one is the mining. So I was astonished that I didn't see the banking sector at the top three, because we have the potential. When it comes to natural resources, maybe Oman is rich, but when it comes to utilization and the potential benefit of these kind of resources, it's not that at par at the high level. But we want to innovate and we want to diversify. And one of the major sectors that can be immediately contributing to a major benefit in the GDP and to its economy, for Oman to become one of the financial hubs. Look at, for example, I'll give you Switzerland. Switzerland, I mean, we don't want to just compare the size of it, because Switzerland is even smaller, and natural resources, almost none. But they found a way, similar to in Dubai, a little bit similar to Bahrain at a point in time, they became somehow the financial hub of the world. And we have the potential in Oman. And banking sector is one of the strongest in the world, not just in Oman, it's across the world, one of the strongest. And they have cash, and they have people. Customers already need banking. Corporates need banking. And another part, which is essential, and I think I need to touch base on it here, is the taxation and the way we evolve this economy in Oman. I think it's a must, and the realization right now is happening around making sure taxation is one of the contributors of the revenue. And between taxation and the banking sector, we have so much potential in Oman. And I hope they can really leverage that. Because today, we're thinking of mining, the copper, we're thinking of fisheries, we're thinking of many others, while there is a sector that really can contribute, and we have really the minds. And I was blown away in last year's OER Banking Summit. So much ideas are there, and people are hungry, especially in this sector. And I wish really we can contribute and take this sector forward. Thank you for the question. I hope I addressed it very well.
Thank you, Eddy, for that. We have another question via the chat from Sophia. Hi, Eddy. What are the innovations most needed right now in banking, triggered by COVID-19, in your opinion?
So the typical example is that I'm sitting right now home and I need to bank. If I need to transfer $20,000 or more, I have to go, and I can't do it online, or let's say $30,000 beyond the threshold. I can't do it myself. And I have to go to the bank. So internet banking does not allow me. And then I need to do something about it. Maybe, for example, again, I highlighted a nice example of immersive technology like AR or augmented reality. You can imagine, for instance, this is maybe something very futuristic, but in reality, it could be through your phone. If I need to go to the bank, he needs to see me, identify me, and make me sign papers. This can still be done online through, maybe, I'm giving an example, DocuSign for digital signature. Identification can it be more than a camera as well? And the ID itself, and maybe the number. So this is one of the examples. Other examples that we have developed also in GBM for COVID-19 in specific, mainly chatbots with certain intelligence around the COVID-19, and could potentially be used in banks. So customers, and maybe here we're talking about the robotics, or we're talking about the chatbot, but also in reality, I mean, these all technologies are available today at our hands. So it doesn't have required extreme innovation, but requires maybe the execution. And there are so many examples that can be highlighted, but also I don't want to limit the innovation to me. I want to really, everyone can really contribute. And you can imagine that if you're not able to use the services by yourself at home, what is it that's required to be able to perform this kind of exercise or task or activity? And thank you for the question.
Thank you. I think we had one more question. No. There's another question from one of our participants. She wants to know what you think of our existing technology and in the banking sector, and what do you recommend in terms of the way forward to continue to innovate and stay ahead of the curve?
Thank you, Diana, for the question. Diana, there are First of all, we need to understand that innovation does not come from top management, and or it could be from anyone, and also it could be from external factors. OAB has embarked on a major journey, especially the last few years. I've witnessed myself a major change in OAB, and this vision that the executives of or the management of OAB had is really amazing. How to get there is really up to the bank and how much they reap the benefits, and also how can make it attractive in the market. So it's a combination of both. Technology right now at OAB is well serving today's needs with today's regulation, with the current services available. The moment you want to augment, for example, your services through different external services, and maybe pulling certain information and coordination and cooperation between the central banks and maybe other insurance sectors, other insurance companies, and maybe the police and maybe others. And I saw, for example, this fines and stuff is paid through the OAB. So this kind of small initiatives makes big sense. But also remember that technology gets outdated very quickly. But it's not because of the current services only. So you need to always innovate on technology, but also the innovation of new ideas and of services through new ideas and how to address consumers. Once you put them together, I think the technology becomes limited of what's available. So you always keep on thinking ahead of time. Currently, we witnessed, I give you a major example of the new way of developing applications and the new way of addressing technology markets. We'll talk about microservices and certain services that you require to develop. Usually, if you use a traditional way, that could be currently also across all banks, there are available in certain areas traditional setup, and in certain areas very innovative setups and up to the part of the new technologies today. But those microservices are essential, and it can be done effective utilization of the current infrastructure that you already have, and moving forward, how to really benefit and write. And you can easily expand and do many changes. I salute OAB for really the innovation that was done the past 2 years, and lots of investment around especially the application side, because the technology is not mainly only on the infrastructure side, also on the integration, which is the API that we talked about, and the development of that, and on all the applications. Yes.
Thank you, Eddy. I'm just conscious of time. We have about 4 minutes left to the end of the session. We'll take one final question from Aju. Aju says, banks in the GCC have spent close to $12 billion on digital transformation, and more is being spent. What are the areas that will see major impact, considering during this time, a lot of banks have found it difficult to migrate to digital platforms during the crisis?
A typical example of failures in these areas, and I highlighted those main 4 areas in a few slides before. Maybe I can go back.
Yeah, perhaps you can just do a refresher on that.
These typical areas of areas that needs to be addressed in order for us to make sure that we address those kind of changes. Digital transformation is a long journey, and the majority of the challenges that we face, and that I face as well in the market, is that the moment we start putting money, we're expecting immediate results. In digital transformation, it's not the case, but without it, you're obsolete. So it's a give and take. So you need to give to the market, and you need to innovate, and you need to spend so much in order to stay in the game. And typical examples, I give you culture. Today, we as GBM, we implement lots of applications. And typically for major organizations, this particular slide, I show it every time in my introduction and kickoff meeting. They need to make sure they address the culture and the people. We'll worry about, together, us and the IT, about the formal organization and critical tasks. So it's both together. And I think once all these 4 areas are addressed well, all transformation succeeds.
Thank you, Eddy. Thank you very much. Unfortunately, we're out of time. We have plenty of questions that we would love to address. But really, we want to thank you for a really insightful presentation. Thank you for joining us once again, Eddy, and thank you for all the support that you've extended to us. We hope that you've all enjoyed today's session. Our next session will be held on the 7th of May, on Wednesday at 11 a.m. If you'd like to register, please visit Oman Arab Bank's social media pages for more information. Thank you all once again, and wish you a lovely day. Thank you, Eddy.
Thank you all. Ciao. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Awesome.